So the first question is, what is your impression of pastors, priests, or other spiritual leaders?
That is a tough one. I mean, I've had good pastors that have really, moved me in, teen services and stuff like that, even when I was older. But, I've also got my views on, priests and stuff because I have children and everything with, the news. So I am very opinionated when it comes down to it. So I would say that some people can be very, very good, but some people use that power to do very, very bad. So yeah, that's my opinion on it.
Yeah. And your thoughts?
I can agree with her on that. For me personally, I grew up in one church practically my whole life, and I don't know. I would say that particular person did abuse his power and his position, but I do believe that there are some who use it for good.
Yeah.
And
For sure. I think do you think people trust ministers? Why or why not?
Same thing. I think people do trust them. I think sometimes people trust them a little bit too much because when you have things like a lot of the stuff that's been in the news here lately come to surface, a lot of people refuse to acknowledge it as true, or they'll say that somebody is telling a story, or that they're lying, or this, that, and the other, or that he's a man of God, so he or she shouldn't be punished, blah, 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 especially men for some reason. But I do think that when you have the right pastor, a lot of people believe in that person. And there is some churches, like the church that I went to when I was a teenager, because that youth group pastor was the right pastor, parents backed him. Everybody backed him. The pastor of the main church backed him 110%. And you can just tell when people are super invested into it. So you have the good and you have the bad. And sometimes bad overweighs the good, but I think people will believe them. People choose to believe them at their own discretion.
Yeah. All right. And then you think people trust them generally?
I would say so,
Yeah.
Basically everything. I have to agree with everything she just said.
If you were, facing a difficult situation, would you talk to a pastor or some other spiritual leader, and then why or why not?
Yeah, because they could be good counselors. A lot of the time, I've had a lot of friends that, in their times of need to work through their relationship or anything, their marriage and stuff, I've actually suggested to them, even though I don't go to church, I'm like, well, you can go to a preacher, you can go talk to a pastor, you can go talk to somebody at a local church, and they can help you work through this. Or even with people suffering through addiction and stuff, I know people that will go to the church and they seek, solace and confidence in a preacher or a pastor because, hey, that person is there, that person's going to listen to me, that's what this person does.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, I have in the past before.
Yeah. All right, cool. Why do you think, what do you think are the most important character traits a pastor or other spiritual leader can have?
Trusting. Leadership, absolutely. Definitely not biased. I mean, they need to be open to everybody. All people, all creeds, all colors, all faiths, all everything. They've got to be open to a little bit of everything. And just not abusive of their power.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's the biggest thing with me is not abusing your power.
Yeah. All right. Question number 1 is, what is your impression of pastors, priests, or other spiritual leaders? There's no wrong answer, okay? I'll just let you know now. This is more of just a survey.
What if we don't want to answer all questions?
That's fine.
Pass.
Yeah. Pass.
You pass? Okay. All right. So, do you think people trust ministers?
I feel like it depends. It depends on you don't really know someone until you get to talk to them.
Yeah. So it depends. Yeah, that's a good answer. Okay, so the third question is, if you were facing a difficult situation, would you talk to a pastor or other spiritual leader?
Yeah, I would.
Yeah? Okay. Why or why not do you think you would or other people wouldn't?
I would because I feel like it's someone you can trust, especially if it's you're close to a priest or a preacher, whoever it may be. You're close to them. That's the person you should go to.
All right. And then the last question is, what do you think are the most important character traits that a pastor could have?
Well, it has to be understanding.
Understanding? Yeah.
Trustworthy.
Trustworthy.
Honesty.
Honest. Yeah. All right. Well, that's priests or other spiritual leaders. Like, what's your impression on them?
Good.
They're good. All right. So.
That's not including the Vatican, but
All right. The second question is, do you think people trust ministers, and then why or why not?
dressed what?
Do they trust ministers, like the just people in general? No.
I think so.
No. Why do you think they don't? Why do you think they don't trust them?
And what was that?
Okay, so the question.
It's hard for me to hear in here with all this noise.
It
Sorry.
is very noisy. You're good. The question is, do you think it's question 2 right there? Do you think people trust ministers? Why or why not?
Oh no, I don't think so.
You don't think they trust
No,
them?
I don't, because the pedophiles that's going around this country or the world, it's bad.
Yeah,
And I mean that's
It's-
the only reason.
it's
really.
true. Yeah, no, it's a good point. And then the third question is, if you were facing a difficult situation, would you go talk to like a pastor or some other spiritual leader?
No.
Going back to
I've gotten by all my life doing myself. Only my wife. So.
yeah. So, and then the last question is, what do you think are the most important character traits that a pastor could have?
The most characteristic traits.
Yeah, the most
pastor could
important.
have?
Yeah, the most important ones.
I just getting word of God over to most people out there.
Yeah, just kind
Some
of.
people, really don't understand the way they talk sometimes of what they're getting at.
Yeah. So,
They need to be clear
yeah, clear
about
communication.
what they yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I just finished interviewing all these people. I'm actually currently in my car, but it was very eye-opening. I thought that living here in the Bible Belt, that there'd be more people that would agree on more of the classic things of ministers or other spiritual leaders, and they didn't all fully agree or have that personal relationship. Some people did. Some people were obviously Christians. Some people had obviously had bad experiences within the church. So it was very interesting. I even had a table. There was a mom and her 2 kids. You couldn't see the mom in the video, but she wanted to pass a question. It was the first one that says, "What's your impression on ministers?" And they didn't want to answer it, so they passed it. And I thought that was really interesting. Obviously they didn't want to offend me because they could tell that I come from a walk of faith. Otherwise, I wouldn't be asking these questions and things like that. There's also the older man that, he doesn't go and talk to pastors in difficult situations. He's like, nah, I've gotten by my whole life just depending on myself. So why would I need to go talk to God, or why would I need to go talk to some other spiritual leader to help guide me through when I've been doing just fine my whole life? But one thing that pretty much everybody had in common was about the character traits of pastors and other ministers, is that they all said they need to be reliable, they need to be trustworthy, and they need to be dependable. And something that the older man actually said was clear communication. So I feel like, now this is, a little judgmental, but basing off of my observations is that, he said they need to have clear communication. So in my opinion, he has had bad experience with the church because that pastor didn't know how to communicate well. That pastor didn't know how to communicate, the Bible. Might have been using his power, for the wrong reasons. His motives weren't right. And even the first group said that at 3 Rivers Coffee, Like, you know, they could use their power for good or for bad. So I feel like a lot of people sadly have experienced the bad part, and that's sad because we're in the Bible Belt. And here I thought that there would be more open Christians, you know, about their faith, when the majority of the people that I talked to weren't. They weren't Christians, or they didn't go to church, or they've had some bad experience. So the two places that I went to is Three Rivers Coffee, and then I walked down to Branded Burgers, and that's where I found my people, and it was definitely an eye-opening experience. But those are my thoughts.